Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
And I'm Jessica.
Today, we're continuing our discussion on the 7 deadly sins. And today, I feel it's rather fitting given that we are currently, that many of us, in at least in our viewership world, are in quarantines and lockdowns and churches being closed. We're going to talk about sloth.
I think you mean sloth. Sloths are cute and fuzzy. One time I got to touch a sloth. They're very neat, and they live in trees, and they only go down once a week, and they can actually swim. It's really weird.
Yeah, so when they go down once a week, they make a very stinky.
Yes. Well, I mean, they've been holding it in all week.
They've been holding it in for a week.
And their fur has its own microbiome.
Yes, but we're not talking about the cute and cuddly and very slow mammal.
Okay.
We're talking about the deadly sin of sloth.
That sounds like you're just trying to mispronounce sloth.
It's usually,
so I don't talk about
as far as I'm aware, it's only being mispronounced so that people don't get it confused with the animal.
Oh. Well, does it have some other name that we could use instead, so that way I don't think of cute, fuzzy animals?
Well, we could call it by its Latin name.
Ooh.
Achadia.
That is nowhere like a cute, fuzzy animal.
That is nowhere like a cute, fuzzy animal. But that is what they called it in Latin.
Probably because they didn't know sloths.
Yep. So as we do with all of our sins, we need to start with, what is it?
Well, apparently it's not the cute, fuzzy animal.
It's not a cute, fuzzy animal. What it is, according to Merriam-Webster, it is it could be one of two things.
Ooh.
Which, in my opinion, are actually both the same thing. So that's why I kind of included them.
Well, sometimes they have very, slight variations in definitions.
A disinclination to action or labor, and a spiritual apathy and inactivity. See, actually, no, I think about it, I don't like the first one. See, because the first one is really sort of Protestant work ethic definition of sloth. In that everybody should be working, and if you're not working, then clearly you're slothful. Essentially laziness as a sin. Mm-hmm. And we'll get into more about, that. I got some other definitions here that I came across. Saint John of Damascus, way back when, defined sloth as an oppressive sorrow, which, to wit, so weighs upon man's mind that he wants to do nothing. See, I feel like that one gets more at the heart. It's not so much that you're not wanting to work, but more that you are, there's this oppressive sorrow that's just keeping you from wanting to do anything.
And that would also distinct it from laziness, because there's all those people who have a deadline, so suddenly they've cleaned their whole house and, reorganized their spice drawer in alphabetical order or anything else besides what they're actually doing.
Yes.
They're super busy. Just not at the right thing.
Yes, they're procrastinating, and that while some people might attribute that as being a thing that goes along with sloth, it really isn't, because they're doing stuff. They are active, and they are not feeling this oppressive sorrow.
Mm-hmm. And does St. Thomas Aquinas have something to say? Because so far he's had something to say every time. I actually
think in the future we might have a few things where he doesn't have it, where I don't have as much from him to say on something. But on this one, yes, he does have something to say. He calls sloth sorrow in regards to spiritual good, and sluggishness of the mind which neglects to begin good. See, St. John of Damascus kind of sort of takes both of those Merriam-Webster definitions and smashes them together and finds a sort of a middle point. But Thomas really focuses on the spiritual aspects of it, in that there's this weight that's upon you that keeps you from seeking the good. And to that extent, many people actually think that our assertion that pride is like foremost of the cardinal sins, that this one is actually the most dangerous one. Because it gets into your life, and it just sort of, if anything, this is the one area where pride isn't going to get in. There's really not any room for pride because sloth is pushing you down so hard that pride just doesn't really want to bother with that.
Plus, if you got that from St. Thomas Aquinas, he probably would just be so upset about the idea of, not actively using your mind.
I did not get it from him. I got it from some other readings I was looking at. But yeah, they looked at it as being the most serious one because, and from a Catholic standpoint, it totally could be because sloth, it's many other things, but it also happens to include that sense about sin where your sin is so great that it couldn't be forgiven. That you're under such an oppressive weight of the sins that you've already committed that there's now no point in you trying to go and confess those.
Yes, pride seems to be very much about actions. This is like the inverse.
Yes. This and given that we are in a time when people are not being able to practice their spiritual life in the way that they're used to, this is one where it's going to get very easy to fall into. Because, you look at those things that you used to do and you can't do them right now. So, well, I guess if I can't. But we should say some other things about sloth.
Okay. Besides that, it's not a fuzzy animal.
Besides that, it's not a fuzzy animal.
I'm so disappointed.
As we've already pointed out, we do not want to connect this with laziness or slacking. Being lazy can still be a sin, but being lazy in and of itself is not sloth. It's not. When a person's being lazy, they're just, in most cases, in my experience, when a person's being lazy, they're just being lazy. They're not pursuing the goods that they could pursue in their life. But it's not because there's some sorrow or some angst or anguish or, sluggishness that is actually trying to push them away from doing those things. It's more that they just don't want to. Theirs is more of an indifference. So the kid who wants to, the young man who wants to spend all of his time sitting in the basement playing video games and not really doing anything else, it's not necessary. It could be sloth. I won't say that it isn't because you really have to sort of look at the circumstances.
Yeah.
But
probably wrath. I've heard the talk on video games over the internet.
Yes. That one little kid was so mean.
They're always like a 12-year-old. Like, we can tell from your voice, man.
Yeah. But it does have an interesting name. Aside from acedia, the Latin one, in medieval Europe, they had another name for it. The noonday devil. You wake up early and you start working and you hit that, you wake up, you get started, you've got a head full of steam and you're getting all this work done and you get to about lunchtime and all the determination that you started the day out with is kind of really petered out.
All right. Anything else we should know about this not cute fuzzy animal?
Well, I have heard... For people who are still maybe not entirely clear as to what sloth is, I have heard some people relate it in a manner of speaking to clinical depression.
Which is not to say that clinical depression is one of the deadly sins.
Yes, it's not to say that clinical depression is sloth or that sloth is necessarily clinical depression. Simply that a lot of the traits that they each possess, or there are a lot of traits that they both possess.
And I can see that, because the major difference here is that this is a spiritual thing in where there is not, any outside factors besides, your own thinking that does it. Why, actual depression, could be chemical imbalances.
There can be chemical imbalances.
There could be, things with your meds, various other things where, it's not a sin to be clinically depressed because it's not you actively attempting
No,
to do something.
there is
or
something.
not do something.
There is some when a person is actually clinically depressed, there is something that is not working inside their mind that does not work in the same way as it does for people who are not clinically depressed. But at the same time, when you are experiencing sloth, there is a part of your spiritual wellness that isn't working in the same way as it is for other people. And as a result of that, you tend to not want to seek those goods, both spiritual and physical, that you might want to seek otherwise.
Which is probably why this is one of the ones that, quite often when people talk about having, they're like, you need a spiritual director.
You need a spiritual director. If you are concerned that you are having real difficulty with the sin of sloth, I strongly recommend you talk to your priest or perhaps a deacon at your some person in a clerical role at your church, at your parish.
Or like in our area, there's lots of monks and nuns that also, do spiritual direction, or
Yes.
even lay people that have degrees in it.
But quite oftentimes, the people who are going to be best able to help
the
you
first
find those
step
people
is
going to be
talk
your
to-
parish priest or deacon. And ask if maybe, some spiritual direction might be something that you could benefit from, and where might you go and get that?
Yes, because I believe our last one was greed.
Yes.
While you're blinded by your sins, it's kind of, in an after, be like, yeah, I can kind of see how I was being greedy.
Yep. And with
This is one that, you really need a third party.
And with pride, we said that the thing that you were supposed to do is look at all the little things that you do and why do you do them. Mm-hmm. Well, this one, it's more complicated. This one is really one where you're going to want to enlist a little help to help you figure out, how best to go and combat this. So, go down below, hit the subscribe button, and that bell next to it so you get notified tomorrow when our next episode comes out, unless you're watching this sometime outside of Easter season 2020. Hit the like button, just because. Why not? I'm not allowed to tell you all the reasons why I think you should anymore, because apparently that's me being prideful.
Yes.
And go down below and maybe share some of your stories with regards to sloth and laziness and, inactivity. And
Yes, or maybe note how many toes you prefer on a sloth.
I'm a fan of the two-toed. And until next time, remember to live your faith
Love your faith.
and share that love.